The Pro Day circuit is slowly coming to an end with our final Pro Day report, joined by Paul Dottino. I am John Schmeelk. A bunch of schools late last week and over the weekend had their Pro Days. And Paul, let's start with the University of Minnesota and wide receiver Rashad Bateman. After the big three, he could be the next wide receiver off the board. Here's what Bateman said he wanted to show people at his Pro Day.
I just hope that I showed them that I'm a first-round draft pick. I came out here, I ran fast, and I performed at my best. I ran good routes, I did good in all the drills, and I think I solidified myself. But at the end of the day, if that don't happen, I'm just here to play football, and I'm excited to be in this process. I'm excited to go through this, so I'm just loving it right now. I'm just taking it all in.
And Paul, there are a couple things about that Bateman Pro Day that are interesting. In that same NFL Network interview with Tom Pelissero, he opted out this year, then opted back in. He explained why. He caught COVID. He had it. He lost 10 pounds. He said he never really got back to where he wanted to be. Then he shows up his Pro Day, runs a 4.39. And the other interesting part, he weighs in at 6 foot, just over that, and 190 pounds. Well, he was listed in Minnesota at 6'2", 210. And he said, I never weighed 210 pounds in my life. And he had no idea where that came from. So we're learning a little bit more about him as his draft process continues.
No, very true, John. And the thing about it is, you mentioned the initial height at 6'2", where he was listed at. So a lot of people said, well, maybe he's going to be a little bit more one of those skyscraper guys who might be on the outside. No. What you see is a very athletic, quick guy who can probably play outside, but might also be a slot guy. I don't think that's impossible.
He could do both, sure.
He's got really good moves. He's certainly very dynamic, very productive. The kind of guy who, I agree with you, is going to be in that second grouping of receivers. There's a bunch of them there, and it depends on what flavor you want as to what order you're going to put them in.
And a much more explosive 2019 than 2020 coming off that COVID diagnosis. All right, Paul, let's jump over to Oregon. Penney Sewell. Most people think he's going to be the top tackle off the board, though there's word now that maybe he's sliding down some draft boards. Still an impressive Pro Day for him. 6'4", 331 pounds, just a monster of a man. 33 1/4 inch arms. Not ideal, but good enough to play offensive tackle.
Well, John, I think part of the problem here is that when people look at him, some are actually thinking he should be a guard. And they're looking at the size. They're looking at the boxcar frame. They're also saying, well, maybe the arms aren't quite as long enough to be a left tackle. All right, so they're not exactly perfect. But the guy is a mammoth of a man. If you watch him play, John, his technique is good. Now, would I like him to play a little bit stronger? I suppose I would. But that all comes with the maturing process.
Maybe more of a mean streak. That's something else I've seen people point out. But the bottom line, he opted out in 2020. As a true sophomore in 2019, he was dominant when he was 19 years old, playing against 22-year-olds. So it's hard to really...
We know that program, too.
Yeah, of
course. They love their offensive linemen there. These guys chew nails for breakfast.
It's hard to really pick a lot of bad things out with Penney. So he's going to be a top 15 pick in this year's draft. We'll see if he gets the Giants at 11. Who knows? All right, let's switch gears, Paul. Let's go to Oklahoma State and go to another offensive lineman, Tevin Jenkins. He had a chance to talk to NFL Network's Jeffrey Chadia, and he asked him what Jenkins thought he showed to scouts at his Pro Day.
I think it went pretty good. I did put up good numbers, and I feel like I did really good in the individual workouts.
Now, I watched on the bench, 36 reps at 225 pounds. Everybody was fired up for you there. Is that what you were hoping to hit?
Yeah, actually, coming into this, my personal best was 34, so I ended up beating it by 2. So I felt really good getting up in here in 36.
And Paul, 6'5", 317 pounds, 36 reps on the bench. Sewell did 30, by the way. I didn't mention that. Really strong kid. But again, you look at some of his measurements, 33.5-inch arms, but some people think him too with his demeanor. He's a real kind of tough guy. He's going to knock guys around, a little nastiness to him. Maybe some people think he could be a guard and not a tackle.
Okay, now see, this is a situation where unlike Sewell, this guy is a bully. He flat out goes out there and just beats people up. It may not be the prettiest. His technique may not be perfect, but he will fight you tooth and nail like a pit bull. That's why people like him as much as they do, because the combination of strength, his motor, and his nastiness is going to make him a success.
Then you got wide receiver Tylan Wallace, also from Oklahoma State, Paul. 5'11", 190 pounds, 4'4", 840, sub-7 second, 3-cone drill. He's another one of these wide receivers that can play outside, play slot. He's going to be a day 2 pick.
John, he did have an ACL injury in his past, and that is a bit of an issue, although he played last season and showed that he could pretty much get it done. but at the same time, this is a guy who lacks some physicality off the line of scrimmage. Against big, strong press corners, it may be a bit of an issue for him. A little bit smaller, quicker. I think he might be better off in the slot, to be frank with you.
All right, finally, let's go to the University of Central Florida, Paul. It's been an up-and-coming program. You're getting more and more guys coming out of that school that are day 1 and day 2 picks. 2 defensive backs this year that a lot of people like. Maybe end of day 1, more likely day 2. Cornerback Aaron Robinson and safety Richie Grant.
Yeah, can we start with Grant because he's very interesting. 3-year starter, so he's got a lot of experience. Now, the thing with him is that I think he's going to be more of a strong safety, John, than he will be a free safety. I think he's a hitter. He's a guy who's going to play the run well, come down in the box. I don't necessarily know if I want him to play center field, but that's just me. I think when teams look at him, they'll have to figure out what they want to do with him before they draft him highly. Robinson, the thing about him is that he doesn't play as fast as his measurables are.
Had a sub 4.4 40-yard dash.
And that sticks out like a sore thumb. But then when you watch him play, it's not quite as fast as that. I also think he's a guy who could have some slot responsibilities because he can do things at the line of scrimmage on people and he can handle with some of their quick moves. But in terms of deep speed downfield or being able to go sideline to sideline as a center fielder, I'm not so sure.
He was very physical at the Senior Bowl. One
Right.
interesting note, he measured under 31-inch arms, which again says maybe you can't press outside with that arm length. You might have to play a little bit more slot. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. Our final look at the Pro Days in 2021.